This $5 stump remover is killing the $1.4 trillion diesel industry, the invisible tax trapped in diesel's web. At a fuel pump on a lonely highway, an owner-operator truck driver stands frozen, staring at a receipt that reads over $120. His weathered hands grip the paper tightly as the weight of another expense settles on his shoulders. This is not just a single transaction. This is the daily reality of an industry worth $1.4 trillion, built on the backs of those who can least afford it. For truck drivers across the country, fuel costs are not merely an expense. They are a constant burden that determines survival. Every year, these men and women spend anywhere between $7,000 to $70,000 on diesel alone. For some, this cost is manageable. For others, it is the difference between keeping their business alive and losing everything they have worked for. In the background of this struggle, something unusual sits quietly on the shelf of an ordinary agricultural store. A bottle of stump remover, priced at just $5, waits unnoticed. It is a product meant for clearing tree stumps from farmland, sold in bulk to farmers and landscapers. Few would ever connect this humble chemical to the world of heavy transportation. Yet here lies a profound conflict. On one side is a massive industry, a trillion-dollar system powered by fuel, regulations, and corporate interests. On the other side is a substance that costs barely $1 per use, widely available and seemingly irrelevant. The question emerges from the silence. Could something so cheap and accessible actually challenge a system so large and entrenched? Could a product designed for agriculture become a tool of disruption in the world of trucking? The answer is neither simple nor safe to speak aloud. The Stuttgart secret, a discovery buried in time. In the cold winter of 1947, amid the ruins of post-war Germany, a quiet laboratory in Stuttgart became the site of an extraordinary discovery. Heinrich Brower, a determined engineer, was wrestling with a problem that plagued the entire continent. Diesel fuel quality had collapsed after the war. Engines were clogging, smoke was choking the streets, and transportation was grinding to a halt. Brower knew that if he could not find a solution, the recovery of an entire nation would be delayed. For months, he tested compound after compound, mixing chemicals in different ratios, observing their effects on combustion and engine performance. 200 substances passed through his hands. Most failed. Some showed promise, but could not be scaled. Then, on a gray afternoon in his cramped workspace, Brower tested a simple crystalline powder, potassium nitrate, commonly used in fertilizers and fireworks. What happened next defied his expectations. The cetane rating of the diesel fuel, a measure of how cleanly and efficiently it burns, jumped by 8 to 12 points. Black smoke, the signature of incomplete combustion and wasted energy, vanished almost entirely. Engines ran smoother, quieter, and consumed less fuel. Brower had not just improved diesel, he had transformed it. His findings were documented, published, and discussed among engineers across Europe. For a brief moment, it seemed as though the world of fuel efficiency was about to change forever. But by the early 1950s, something strange happened. American fuel companies, who had access to Brower's research, quietly filed it away. No major implementation followed. No public announcements were made. The discovery that could have revolutionized transportation was buried in corporate archives. The reason was simple and chilling. If fuel efficiency increased by 45%, retail fuel volume would collapse. Drivers would need far less diesel. Profits would plummet. And so the Stuttgart secret was locked away, hidden not because it did not work, but precisely because it did. Molecular warfare, the battle inside the engine. Deep within the steel chambers of a diesel engine, a violent process unfolds thousands of times per minute. Unlike gasoline engines that rely on spark plugs, diesel engines operate on pure compression. Air is squeezed so tightly that it heats to over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit. Fuel is then injected into this superheated air, and if everything works perfectly, it ignites instantly and burns completely. But perfection is rare. In reality, most pump diesel has a low cetane rating, meaning it does not ignite cleanly or quickly. The result is incomplete combustion. Half the fuel burns and powers the engine. The other half escapes as thick black smoke, wasted energy pouring out of the exhaust. This is where the crystal enters the fight. Potassium nitrate, the active ingredient in common stump remover, is composed of tightly bonded nitrogen and oxygen clusters. When introduced into diesel fuel, these clusters break apart under the extreme heat and pressure of the combustion chamber. The released oxygen accelerates the ignition process, allowing fuel molecules to catch fire faster and burn more completely. What was once delayed and inefficient combustion becomes sharp and precise. The cetane rating climbs. The engine responds with smoother power delivery and reduced emissions. But potassium nitrate does not stop at improving ignition. It has a second, equally important function. As it circulates through the fuel system, it acts as a detergent, breaking down carbon deposits that accumulate on fuel injectors over time. These injectors are the precision nozzles that spray diesel into the combustion chamber. When they are clogged, fuel atomization suffers. creating larger droplets that burn poorly. Clean injectors restore the fine mist that diesel engines are designed for, ensuring every drop of fuel is used efficiently. The claim of 45% improvement is not a single miracle. It is the sum of two effects working together. 12 to 18% comes from the cetane boost, allowing faster and more complete combustion. The remaining 25 to 30% comes from cleaning the injectors, restoring the engine to a state it has not seen since it was new. Together, these molecular changes turn wasted fuel into usable power, transforming an ordinary engine into a machine that defies the economics of the fuel industry. The elite circle, those who know and stay silent. Across the farmlands of the American Midwest, a quiet practice has persisted for decades. Farmers, who operate massive diesel-powered tractors and harvesters, have long known about a simple trick to stretch their fuel budgets. They purchase stump remover or agricultural-grade potassium nitrate from local supply stores, the same products used to clear tree stumps or fertilize crops. A small measured dose is added to their diesel tanks before long days in the field. The results are undeniable. Engines run cleaner, fuel lasts longer, and maintenance costs drop. This knowledge is not written in manuals or advertised. It is passed quietly from one generation to the next, shared in conversations at feed stores and over fences between neighboring farms. In far more critical environments, the military has also discovered the value of fuel efficiency. Remote military operations, whether in deserts, mountains, or conflict zones, depend entirely on fuel logistics. Every gallon of diesel must be transported across dangerous terrain, often at great cost and risk. In such conditions, a 45% improvement in fuel efficiency is not a luxury. It is a matter of survival. Fewer fuel convoys mean fewer targets. Longer operational range means fewer vulnerabilities. Military engineers and logistics officers quietly integrate potassium nitrate treatments into their fuel protocols, ensuring that every mission has the endurance it needs. The information is classified, not because it is dangerous, but because it offers a strategic advantage. Across the Atlantic, European fleet operators face a different challenge. Diesel prices in Europe are among the highest in the world, often double or triple what American drivers pay. For companies managing hundreds of trucks, every percentage point of fuel savings translates directly into profit or loss. In countries like Germany, France, and the Netherlands, fleet managers have quietly adopted potassium nitrate as part of their routine maintenance protocols. It is not marketed or discussed publicly, but it is used. Injectors are kept clean, engines remain efficient, and fuel bills stay manageable. The practice is treated as insider knowledge, shared only within the industry and never with independent drivers who might benefit the most. The betrayal is not in the silence itself, but in who benefits from it. Large agricultural operations, military forces, and corporate fleets have access to the same fuel-saving chemistry that could transform the lives of struggling owner-operators and independent truckers. Yet those who need it most are left in the dark, continuing to pay full price at the pump, unaware that a $5 bottle could save them thousands. The knowledge exists, the solution is available, but the system is designed to keep it hidden from those who would disrupt the flow of fuel industry profits. Breaking the vault, reclaiming power through knowledge. For an owner-operator who drives long-haul routes, fuel is the single largest operating expense. A typical independent trucker spends between $40,000 and $70,000 on diesel every year. When fuel efficiency improves by 45%, the savings are not marginal. They are transformative. An operator spending $60,000 annually on fuel could reduce that cost to approximately $33,000. That is a savings of $27,000 every single year. Over the course of a decade, this amounts to $270,000. That is enough to buy a new truck outright, debt-free. It is enough to retire early or to finally stop living paycheck to paycheck. The difference between financial survival and true independence is hidden in a $5 bottle. The method itself is deceptively simple. Potassium nitrate, sold as stump remover in agricultural supply stores or online, is the key. The chemical is legal, widely available, and inexpensive. The dosage is precise but not complicated. For every 100 gallons of diesel, between 2.5 and 3 grams of potassium nitrate should be added. This translates to roughly half a teaspoon per 100 gallons, or about 1 tablespoon for a typical 200-gallon truck fuel tank. The crystals dissolve completely in diesel within minutes, leaving no residue or sediment. The process begins before fueling. The crystals are measured carefully and added directly into the fuel tank before the diesel is pumped. As the tank fills, the turbulence naturally mixes the potassium nitrate throughout the fuel. There is no need for special equipment, no modifications to the engine, and no risk of damage when used in correct proportions. The treatment works immediately, improving cetane rating and beginning the gradual cleaning of injectors from the very first tank. Within weeks, drivers notice smoother acceleration, reduced engine noise, and a visible drop in black exhaust smoke. The financial impact becomes clear within the first month. Fuel receipts shrink, miles per gallon climb. Maintenance intervals extend as injectors stay cleaner and engines run with less stress. What was once an invisible tax, a mandatory cost that could never be questioned, becomes optional. The vault has been broken. The knowledge is no longer exclusive to farmers, military contractors, and corporate fleets. It is now in the hands of those who were always meant to have it, the drivers themselves. The only question that remains is whether they will act on it or continue to pay a price that was never necessary.